The morning sun cast long shadows across the twisted metal graveyard that stretched beyond the horizon. Marcus Chen adjusted his environmental suit's filters as another gust of wind sent radioactive dust swirling through the air. This wasteland had once been the pride of the Terran Defense Fleet's shipyards, but that was before the Voidborn came. Now it was nothing more than a monument to humanity's greatest defeat. Echo, scan Sector 7 Alpha for anything with intact power cells, Marcus commanded, his voice crackling through the comm system built into his helmet. The hulking combat bot beside him turned its sensor array toward the designated area, the mechanical whir of servos cutting through the eerie silence. Echo 7 had been Marcus's companion for 3 years now, ever since he'd found the damaged war machine buried beneath a collapsed battlecruiser. Most people thought he was crazy for venturing into the dead zones alone, but Marcus had learned long ago that solitude was safer than trusting others. The bot's scarred titanium plating told stories of countless battles, and its left arm had been replaced with a salvaged plasma cutter that Marcus had jury-rigged himself. Multiple energy signatures detected, Echo's synthesized voice announced through the comm channel. Distance, approximately 200 meters, bearing north-northeast. Caution advised, detecting movement patterns inconsistent with standard debris. Marcus frowned as he checked his handheld scanner. The readings were strange, almost organic in nature. In 3 years of scavenging these ruins, he'd never encountered anything like it. Most of the alien technology had been completely destroyed during the final battle, reduced to molten slag by humanity's desperate last stand. They moved carefully through the maze of twisted hull plating and exposed support beams. Marcus had memorized every major landmark in this sector: the nose cone of the destroyer Valiant, the shattered communications array from the carrier Prometheus, the crater where Admiral Hassan had made her final sacrifice. Each piece of wreckage told part of the story of humanity's fall. As they approached the source of the energy readings, Marcus noticed something that made his blood run cold. The debris in this area wasn't random. It had been arranged, almost deliberately, forming a rough circle around something he couldn't quite see. The metal showed signs of recent movement, scrape marks in the dust that couldn't be more than a few days old. Echo, full tactical scan. Something's not right here. The combat bot's sensors swept the area in a comprehensive pattern, its weapons systems automatically charging as it detected potential threats. Marcus had modified Echo's combat protocols extensively, removing most of the military restrictions that had limited the bot's effectiveness during the war. It was probably illegal, but there wasn't much of a government left to enforce such regulations. Scanning complete. Detecting artificial structure beneath debris pile. Composition appears to be unknown metallic alloy. Energy output suggests active power source. Recommendation: immediate withdrawal and notification of authorities. Marcus almost laughed at that last part. What authorities? The Terran Council had been wiped out when the orbital platforms fell. The few remaining military outposts were too busy defending the last human colonies to care about one scavenger's discoveries. Negative on the withdrawal, Echo. Let's see what we're dealing with. Working together, they began clearing away the carefully arranged debris. Marcus used his plasma torch to cut through the larger pieces while Echo's powerful hydraulic arms lifted away the heavier components. The work was slow and dangerous. One wrong move could bring tons of unstable wreckage crashing down on them. As they cleared the last layer of twisted metal plating, Marcus found himself staring at something impossible. Buried beneath the debris was a ship, but not like any human or voidborn vessel he'd ever seen. Its hull seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal, adapting to the shape of the surrounding wreckage. Symbols that hurt to look at directly were etched along its surface, pulsing with a faint blue light. Echo, are you recording this? Affirmative. Data stream being stored in reinforced memory core. Recommend immediate transmission to nearest research facility. Marcus approached the craft cautiously, his scanner going wild with energy readings. The ship was roughly the size of a heavy fighter, but its design was completely alien. Not voidborn alien, those ships had been angular and aggressive, built for destruction. This was something else entirely, something that seemed almost alive. As he circled the vessel, Marcus noticed that one section of the hull was damaged, revealing a glimpse of the interior. Strange lights flickered within, and he could hear a low humming that seemed to resonate in his bones. Against every instinct screaming at him to run, he moved closer to the breach in the hull. Echo, can you interface with this thing? See if there's any way to access its systems? The combat bot extended a data probe toward the ship's surface. The moment the probe made contact, the humming grew louder and the blue lights began pulsing more rapidly. Marcus stumbled backward as something like an electric shock ran through the ground beneath his feet. Connection established, Echo reported, but its voice sounded different, somehow distorted and layered with harmonics that hadn't been there before. Accessing ship's database. Warning, detecting massive data influx. Unknown protocols detected. Attempting translation matrix. Marcus watched in fascination as streams of alien text began scrolling across Echo's display screen. The bot's entire frame was vibrating slightly, as if struggling to process the incoming information. Sparks began flying from several of its secondary systems. Echo, disconnect. You're overloading. Negative. Data stream contains critical information. Must complete download. Marcus, this ship, it's not from our galaxy. The beings who built it, they've been watching. They've been waiting. The pulsing lights suddenly synchronized, creating a rhythmic pattern that Marcus recognized from somewhere deep in his memory. It was the same pulse pattern that human ships used for emergency beacons, but modified somehow, made more complex. The ship wasn't just powered up, it was trying to communicate. Downloading star charts, Echo continued, its voice now definitely altered, speaking in harmonics that shouldn't have been possible with its vocal synthesizers. This vessel, it carries refugees. The builder's homeworld was destroyed by the same force that attacked Earth. They've been fleeing for centuries, searching for others who survived the Voidborn assault. Marcus felt his heart racing as the implications hit him. If this was true, if there were other survivors out there, then humanity wasn't alone in its fight against the Voidborn. The ship's pulse pattern grew stronger, and he realized it was responding to Echo's presence, using the bot as a communications relay. The ship's AI is attempting to establish contact, Echo announced. It has detected our Earth origin technology and is requesting permission to share tactical data about Voidborn weaknesses. Marcus, they know how to fight them. They know how to win. The alien vessel's hull began to shift more rapidly, sections sliding apart to reveal what looked like a docking port sized for human equipment. The ship was adapting itself, making itself accessible. The blue lights pulsed in what could only be described as an urgent pattern. Marcus made a decision that would change everything. Despite every survival instinct he'd developed over 3 years of scavenging in the dead zones, despite the obvious dangers of interfacing with unknown alien technology, he stepped toward the ship. Echo, maintain the connection but stay alert. If this thing tries to take control of your systems, cut the link immediately. Understood. However, Marcus, I should note that the alien AI has already begun sharing defensive protocols. My combat effectiveness has increased by approximately 300% in the last 60 seconds. As Marcus approached the newly opened docking port, the ship's pulse pattern suddenly changed. The steady blue rhythm was joined by flashing red lights, and Echo's warning systems began screaming alerts. Multiple contacts approaching from the south. Echo announced, its weapons systems powering up to full charge. Voidborn scout ships, estimated time to arrival, 4 minutes. They've detected the energy signature. Marcus looked back toward the southern horizon and saw them, 3 dark shapes moving fast and low across the wasteland. The Voidborn had been systematically hunting down any signs of advanced technology since their victory, determined to prevent humanity from ever mounting another resistance. Can this ship fly? Marcus asked desperately. Unknown. The AI indicates that primary systems are functional, but the vessel has been dormant for over 50 years. It requires a compatible pilot interface. The scout ships were getting closer, their distinctive whining engines growing louder by the second. Marcus had seen what Voidborn weapons could do to human technology. Echo wouldn't last 30 seconds against 3 of them, no matter how much the alien AI had upgraded its systems. Echo, can you pilot this thing? Negative. The ship's AI requires biological neural patterns for proper interface. It was designed for organic beings, not artificial intelligences. Marcus stared at the alien ship's open docking port, then at the approaching Voidborn scouts. He'd spent 3 years avoiding this exact situation, staying mobile and hidden. But now he had a choice to make: run and let this incredible discovery fall into enemy hands, or take the biggest risk of his life. The ship's AI seemed to sense his hesitation. The pulsing light shifted to a warm golden color, and Marcus felt something touch the edge of his consciousness, not invasive or threatening, but curious and hopeful. Through Echo's connection, he could sense the vast loneliness of the alien intelligence, stranded for decades with only the memory of its extinct creators. "Marcus, we need to move now," Echo warned. "Void-born ships will be in weapons range in 90 seconds. Marcus took a deep breath and stepped through the docking port into the alien ship. The moment he crossed the threshold, the hull sealed behind him and the world changed completely. The interior wasn't built for human anatomy, but, as he watched, the walls began flowing and reshaping themselves to accommodate his form. Lights guided him toward what could only be the pilot's station, a chair that molded itself to his body as he sat down. Tendrils of the same liquid metal that formed the ship's hull extended toward him, stopping just short of making contact with his environmental suit. Through Echo's external feeds, he could see the Voidborn scouts closing in, their weapons already charging. Time was running out. Marcus hesitated for only a moment before allowing the ship's neural interface tendrils to make contact with his suit's life support systems. The sensation was unlike anything he'd ever experienced, not painful, but intensely strange, as if someone was gently exploring the inside of his mind with curious fingers. Suddenly, his consciousness expanded beyond his physical body. He could feel the ship around him like an extension of his own nervous system, every sensor and weapon system as familiar as his own hands. The alien AI's presence was there too, ancient and wise but tinged with a profound sadness that made Marcus's chest ache. "Welcome, survivor." The voice spoke directly into his thoughts, not heard but felt. "I am keeper of the final light. My creators called me Vashti in your linguistic patterns. I have waited so long for one who could understand." Through the ship's sensors, Marcus could see the Voidborn scouts were now less than 30 seconds away. But, instead of fear, he felt a cold, calculating confidence flowing through the neural link. The ship's combat systems were far more advanced than anything humanity had ever developed, and they were now responding to his thoughts as naturally as breathing. "Echo, get clear," Marcus transmitted through the external communication array. "I'm taking this thing up." The combat bot immediately began moving away from the ship, its heavy footsteps shaking loose debris as it found cover behind a collapsed shield generator. Marcus felt the ship's anti-gravity systems coming online, the familiar sensation of weight disappearing as they lifted smoothly out of their debris camouflage. The Voidborn scouts reacted immediately, breaking their formation and opening fire with concentrated plasma beams. But Marcus was already moving, the ship responding to his thoughts faster than any manual control system could have managed. They spiraled upward in a complex evasive pattern that felt like a deadly dance. "They have not changed their tactics in 50 years, Vashti observed with what Marcus sensed was contempt. Predictable. Limited. Watch and learn, young survivor. The ship's weapon systems activated with a thought, but these weren't the crude energy weapons humans had used during the war. These were reality-shearing beam projectors that cut through the Voidborn scouts' shields like they weren't there. The first enemy ship simply ceased to exist, its atomic structure unraveled at the quantum level. The remaining 2 scouts tried to retreat, but Marcus was already thinking 3 moves ahead, the alien AI's tactical knowledge flowing through his consciousness like downloaded instincts. He curved around behind them, using the debris field as cover, and struck before they could transmit a warning to their command ship. The engagement lasted less than 40 seconds. As the last Voidborn wreckage crashed into the wasteland below, Marcus felt a surge of something he hadn't experienced in years: hope. If this ship's technology could be replicated, if other human survivors could learn to interface with similar vessels, they might actually have a chance. "Your species shows promise," Vashti noted. "My creators were not warriors, but they learned to fight when survival demanded it. You have that same adaptability. That same refusal to surrender." "What happened to them?" Marcus asked, settling the ship into a stable hover pattern while monitoring for additional Voidborn responses. "Your creators, how did they survive the initial attack?" Images flooded his mind through the neural link: a civilization of tall, graceful beings with crystalline skin that reflected light in impossible patterns. They had been explorers and philosophers, spread across dozens of star systems in their home galaxy. When the Voidborn arrived, they were completely unprepared for the systematic extinction that followed. We called them the Devourers in our tongue, Vashti explained. They consume not just life, but the very possibility of life. They leave worlds that cannot support any form of existence for millions of years. My creators fought for 3 centuries, learning to wage war against an enemy that existed only to destroy. Marcus absorbed the tactical data flowing through the link, his human brain somehow processing information at speeds that should have been impossible. The Voidborn weren't just conquerors, they were a universal cleanup mechanism, designed to eliminate what they perceived as contamination in the cosmic order. And humanity, with its chaotic creativity and refusal to follow prescribed patterns, was exactly the kind of contamination they were built to erase. How many of your people escaped? 12 ships like this one. We scattered across multiple galaxies, seeking others who might stand against the Devourers. I alone reached this region of space, arriving just as your final battle was beginning. I wanted to help, but my systems were damaged from the journey. I could only watch as your brave warriors made their stand. Through the ship's long-range sensors, Marcus could see Echo moving through the wreckage below, methodically documenting everything with the thoroughness of a dedicated AI. But he could also detect something else: energy signatures moving through the underground tunnel systems that honeycombed this region of the dead zone. Vashti, are you detecting those readings from the tunnel networks? Yes. They are not Voidborn signatures. They appear to be human. Survivors who have been living in the deep shelters, emerging only at night to scavenge. There are more of your kind here than you realized. Marcus felt his heart rate increase as the implications hit him. He'd been scavenging these ruins for 3 years, always alone, never imagining that other people might be hiding in the very foundations of the destroyed fleet base. The underground command bunkers had been sealed during the final battle. He'd assumed they were tombs. Echo, new priority. Scan the tunnel entrance at grid reference 77 Alpha. Look for signs of recent human activity. Acknowledged. Moving to investigate. Marcus, I'm detecting traces of cooked food and recycled air systems. These tunnels are definitely occupied. As the combat bot moved toward the tunnel entrance, Marcus used the ship's advanced sensors to penetrate the underground network. What he found amazed him: a hidden community of nearly 200 people, including children, living in a carefully concealed base built into the old command structure. They had power, hydroponics gardens, even a small manufacturing facility. Your species continues to surprise me, Vashti observed. Even in defeat, you adapt and survive. This is why my creators believed you might succeed where they failed. Echo, try to make contact. Let them know we're friendly. The combat bot approached the tunnel entrance and began broadcasting on emergency frequencies. After several tense minutes, a response came through a woman's voice, cautious but curious. Unknown contact, this is Dr. Sarah Martinez, acting commander of Firebase 7. Identify yourself and state your intentions. Marcus felt a rush of excitement. Firebase 7 had been one of the most advanced research installations in the fleet, focusing on exotic technologies and theoretical weapons development. If Dr. Martinez was still alive, she might be exactly what they needed. Dr. Martinez, this is Marcus Chen, civilian contractor. I'm aboard a recovered alien vessel with technology that could change everything. I need to speak with your senior researchers immediately. There was a long pause before she responded. Mr. Chen, we've been monitoring the energy signatures from your engagement with the Voidborn scouts. Whatever you're flying, it's beyond anything in our databases. Are you requesting permission to land? Affirmative. But, Doctor, you need to understand this ship contains intelligence and tactical data about the Voidborn that we never had during the war. They can be defeated, but it's going to require cooperation between human and alien technology. She is wise to be cautious, Vashti noted. But her biorhythms indicate genuine interest rather than fear. This is promising. Marcus guided the ship toward a clear landing zone near the tunnel entrance, the hull automatically adapting its configuration to present a less threatening profile. As they settled onto the cracked landing pad, he could see armed figures emerging from concealed positions among the ruins. Their equipment was well maintained but clearly jury-rigged, typical of survivor communities that had learned to make do with whatever they could salvage. Dr. Martinez herself appeared at the tunnel entrance, a woman in her 50s with graying hair and intense green eyes that missed nothing. She was accompanied by 2 armed guards and what looked like a technical specialist carrying scanning equipment. Echo returned to the ship but maintained defensive posture. "We don't know how they'll react to alien technology." The combat bot moved to position itself between the landing site and the approaching humans, its weapons powered down but ready. Marcus could feel Vashti's curiosity about the human survivors, the AI studying their movements and behavior patterns with the same intensity a xenobiologist might use when encountering a new species. "They move like soldiers but think like scientists," the AI observed. This combination of martial and intellectual traditions may be the key to defeating the Devourers. "My creators never achieved such balance." As Dr. Martinez approached the ship, Marcus realized he was about to make first contact between humanity and a genuinely friendly alien intelligence. The weight of that responsibility was almost overwhelming. Everything that happened in the next few minutes could determine whether humanity would remain hiding in underground bunkers or take its first steps toward reclaiming the stars. "Dr. Martinez," Marcus called out through the ship's external speakers, his voice artificially enhanced by Vashti's translation protocols. "I'm going to open the ship's communication port. The AI aboard this vessel has information about voidborn weaknesses that could help us plan a counterattack." "Acknowledged, Mr. Chen. But I want to be clear, any aggressive action toward my people will be met with immediate and overwhelming force. We've survived 3 years down here by being very, very careful about who we trust." Marcus felt Vashti's amusement at the threat. The ship's defensive capabilities could probably neutralize every weapon in Firebase 7 before the humans could even acquire target locks. But there was also respect in the alien AI's assessment of Dr. Martinez's leadership. "She thinks tactically," Vashti noted approvingly. "She evaluates threats and resources with the same precision my creators used. This one could learn to interface with our technology." The ship's communication port opened with a soft hiss, revealing a holographic display system that immediately began projecting star charts and tactical data. Dr. Martinez stepped closer, her eyes widening as she recognized some of the stellar formations. "These are maps of Voidborn fleet positions," she breathed. "How did you get this information?" Marcus took a deep breath, preparing to explain everything that had happened since he'd uncovered the buried ship. But before he could speak, alarms began sounding throughout the underground base. Emergency lights flashed red among the tunnel entrances, and armed figures began racing to defensive positions. "Contact bearing 270, someone shouted over the comm system. "Multiple heavy signatures inbound. Estimate 15 minutes to arrival." Dr. Martinez grabbed her communicator. "This is Martinez. All personnel to battle stations. Prep the underground shelters for civilian evacuation. And somebody tell me what we're dealing with." Through the ship's long-range sensors, Marcus could see them approaching, not the small scout ships they'd destroyed earlier, but a full Voidborn hunting pack. 3 heavy cruisers and at least a dozen escort fighters, moving in perfect formation toward Firebase 7's location. "They detected our engagement," Vashti realized. "The Devourers have decided this area requires thorough cleansing." Marcus felt the AI's combat protocols activating automatically, weapon systems charging and tactical subroutines preparing engagement scenarios. But even with all of the ship's advanced technology, they were vastly outnumbered. "Dr. Martinez, you need to evacuate your people now," Marcus called out urgently. "That's a major Voidborn force heading this way. My ship can delay them, but I can't fight that many vessels alone." The doctor's expression hardened with determination rather than fear. "Mr. Chen, we've been preparing for this possibility for 3 years. Firebase 7 isn't just a hiding place, it's a weapons research facility. We've been developing new countermeasures based on salvaged Voidborn technology." She turned to her technical specialist. "Hammond, bring up the particle cannon arrays. And activate the shield generators we salvaged from the Intrepid." Marcus felt Vashti's interest spike as the underground base began revealing hidden defensive systems. Massive weapons turrets rose from concealed positions among the ruins, their barrels crackling with exotic energy. Shield generators hummed to life, creating overlapping defensive fields that turned the entire area into a fortified position. Remarkable, the AI observed. They have been learning. Adapting. This installation could actually pose a significant threat to void-borne vessels, Dr. Martinez, Marcus called out. What if I told you that my ship's AI knows exactly how to coordinate those weapons for maximum effectiveness against void-borne attack patterns? She looked up at him with something that might have been hope. I'd say you just became our new best friend, Mr. Chen. The next 10 minutes passed in a frenzy of activity as Firebase 7 transformed from a hidden research facility into a fortress ready for war. Marcus remained linked with Vashti while coordinating with Dr. Martinez's technical teams, sharing targeting algorithms and defensive protocols that the human survivors had never imagined possible. Hammond, redirect power from hydroponics to the main particle cannon array, Dr. Martinez ordered, her voice steady despite the approaching threat. And, patch Mr. Chen's ship into our fire control network. If his AI can really optimize our weapons, I want full integration. Through the neural link, Marcus felt Vashti interfacing with the human-built systems. The AI's assessment was swift and somewhat alarming. These weapons are crude but effective, Vashti reported. Your people have been reverse engineering void-borne technology with remarkable success. However, their power systems are insufficient for sustained engagement. We will have perhaps 3 minutes of full combat effectiveness before overloads begin. 3 minutes isn't much against 15 ships, Marcus said, sharing the information with Dr. Martinez through the comm channel. Then, we'd better make those 3 minutes count, she replied grimly. Mr. Chen, can your ship's AI predict their attack patterns? Vashti's response came immediately, flooding Marcus's consciousness with tactical projections. The AI had been studying void-borne strategies for centuries, learning to anticipate their moves with almost perfect accuracy. The approaching fleet would follow standard doctrine. The heavy cruisers would establish a bombardment pattern while the escort fighters swept the area for any surviving defensive installations. They'll come in fast and low, using the larger debris as cover, Marcus announced. The fighters will try to identify and eliminate our heavy weapons first, then, the cruisers will move in for systematic destruction. But, Vashti says their formations have a critical weakness. Marcus felt the AI guiding his understanding, showing him how the void-borne ship's energy shields interfered with each other when they flew in close formation. There was a brief window during their approach when their defensive systems would actually weaken rather than strengthen their overall protection. Dr. Martinez, if we can coordinate a synchronized strike during their initial approach, we can take out multiple targets simultaneously. But, the timing has to be perfect. Understood. All weapons systems are now under your ship's targeting control. Hammond, are the underground evacuation protocols active? Affirmative, Doctor. All non-essential personnel are secured in the deep shelters. Emergency shutdown sequences are ready for all critical systems. Marcus felt a sudden surge of respect for these survivors. They'd spent 3 years preparing for this moment, never knowing if it would come, but ready to fight when it did. Through echo sensors, he could see the combat bot taking position near one of the particle cannon arrays, ready to provide close-range support if the void-borne fighters broke through their defensive perimeter. The enemy fleet appeared on the horizon like a swarm of dark insects, their ships moving with the precision of a hive mind. Marcus had seen formations like this during the final battle 3 years ago, just before Earth's orbital defenses had been overwhelmed. The memory made his jaw clench with old anger. Now you begin to understand, Vashti observed, sensing his emotional response. The rage that drives survival. My creators learned this lesson too late. You still have time to channel that anger into victory, through the ship's targeting systems. Marcus could see the void-borne formation adjusting its approach vector, the heavy cruisers spreading out to begin their bombardment pattern. The escort fighters were already accelerating ahead of the main force, their weapons charging as they prepared to eliminate Firebase 7's defenses. All stations, this is Martinez. Firing solution is locked. Wait for the signal. Marcus felt the collective tension of the human defenders through the communication network. Scientists and engineers who had spent years hiding underground were now preparing to fight for their lives with weapons they'd built from scavenged alien technology. The irony wasn't lost on him. Humanity's survival might depend on their ability to use their enemy's own tools against them. Echo, are you picking up any additional contacts? Marcus asked, wanting to make sure they weren't walking into a larger trap. Negative. These appear to be the only void-born vessels in the immediate area. However, I am detecting some unusual energy signatures from the deep tunnels. It's almost as if the underground facility has capabilities that Dr. Martinez hasn't mentioned. Before Marcus could ask for clarification, the void-born fighters reached weapons range and opened fire. Their plasma beams struck Firebase 7's shields with tremendous force, causing ripples of energy to cascade across the defensive barriers. But the salvaged shield generators held, dispersing the incoming fire across multiple emitter nodes. Now! Dr. Martinez ordered. The coordinated strike was devastating. Guided by Vashti's tactical algorithms, Firebase 7's particle cannons fired in perfect synchronization, their energy beams converging on the exact moment when the void-born formation shields were at their weakest. 3 escort fighters simply vanished, their hulls torn apart by concentrated exotic matter bombardment. But the victory was brief. The remaining fighters scattered immediately, breaking formation to attack from multiple angles while the heavy cruisers began their bombardment. The first salvo from the alien warships struck the shields with enough force to shake the entire underground facility. Shield integrity declining rapidly, Vashti reported. Recommend immediate tactical withdrawal. Negative, Marcus replied through gritted teeth. These people don't have anywhere else to go. We hold position and fight. He felt the ship's weapons systems responding to his determination, reality-shearing beam projectors tracking the incoming fighters with lethal precision. But there were too many targets, and the heavy cruisers were beginning to find their range. Firebase 7's shields wouldn't last another minute under this kind of bombardment. That's when Dr. Martinez revealed Firebase 7's final secret. All personnel, this is Martinez. Activating Project Lazarus. Repeat, Lazarus is now active. The underground facility suddenly erupted with new energy signatures as hidden systems came online throughout the tunnel network. Marcus watched in amazement as dozens of concealed weapon emplacements rose from positions he hadn't even known existed. But these weren't just particle cannons or missile launchers, they were something completely different. Mr. Chen, Dr. Martinez said, her voice carrying a note of grim satisfaction, meet humanity's first successful attempt at building our own reality manipulation technology. We've been studying the physics behind void-born shield systems for 3 years. Today, we test our theories. The Lazarus weapons fired, but, instead of destructive energy beams, they projected fields of altered spacetime around the approaching void-born ships. Marcus felt Vashti's astonishment through the neural link as the human-built reality manipulators began to destabilize the aliens' quantum coherence fields. Impossible, the AI whispered in his mind. My creators worked for decades to understand such principles. Your species has achieved this in merely 3 years, the effect on the void-born formation was immediate and catastrophic. Their ships began to lose cohesion as the reality fields interfered with their exotic matter hulls. The escort fighters tumbled out of formation, their pilots struggling to maintain control as their vessel's fundamental structure became unstable. But the heavy cruisers were adapting, their more advanced systems compensating for the reality manipulation by shifting to a different dimensional frequency. They continued their bombardment, and Firebase 7's conventional shields were beginning to fail. Dr. Martinez, the cruisers are breaking through. Marcus called out as explosions began erupting throughout the facility. Can the Lazarus weapons affect larger targets? Negative. They're drawing too much power, we can only maintain the field for another 30 seconds. Marcus felt Vashti's combat protocols suggesting a desperate strategy. The ship could interface directly with the Lazarus weapons, using its advanced power systems to boost their effectiveness. But doing so would require exposing the vessel to direct fire from the void-born cruisers. It is a significant risk, the AI acknowledged. But if we can amplify the reality manipulation field, we can affect even their largest vessels. The choice is yours, young survivor. Marcus thought about all the people hiding in the deep tunnels below, scientists and engineers and children who represented humanity's future. He thought about the years of careful preparation that had gone into building this hidden fortress. Most of all, he thought about the possibility that this battle could be the first step toward humanity reclaiming its place among the stars. Echo, move to protect the Lazarus weapon emplacements. Keep those fighters off the generators. Acknowledged. Moving to defensive positions. Marcus guided the ship toward the largest Lazarus projector, feeling the reality manipulation field growing stronger as Vashti's power systems integrated with the human technology. The sensation was indescribable, like reaching into the fundamental structure of the universe and reshaping it with pure will. The effect on the Voidborn heavy cruisers was immediate. Their hulls began to ripple and distort as the amplified reality field disrupted their exotic matter composition. One of the massive warships actually folded in on itself, its three-dimensional structure collapsing into something that hurt to look at directly. But the remaining cruisers focused their fire on Marcus's position, recognizing the ship as the source of the enhanced field effect. Plasma beams and exotic particle streams converged on their location, overwhelming even the advanced alien shields. Hull breach in secondary systems, Vashti reported with mechanical calm. Power systems at 60% efficiency. I can maintain the field amplification for perhaps 90 more seconds, that's all we need, Marcus replied, feeling the ship's pain through the neural link as if it were his own. Around them, the reality manipulation field was tearing apart the atomic structure of the Voidborn fleet. Only one heavy cruiser remained operational, and it was already beginning to retreat. Dr. Martinez's voice came through the comm system, filled with exhausted triumph. All Voidborn contacts are down or retreating. Firebase 7 is secure. Mr. Chen, I don't know how to thank you. As the immediate threat receded, Marcus felt Vashti's presence growing weaker in his mind. The AI had expended enormous amounts of energy maintaining the field amplification, and the ship's systems were approaching critical failure. It is done, the alien intelligence whispered. Your species has proven itself worthy. The data I carry, the locations of other refugee fleets, the tactical knowledge of my creators, it is yours now. Use it well, Vashti, don't talk like you're dying. We can repair your systems, find ways to restore your power. Perhaps. But, even if this vessel fails, the knowledge will survive. Through your companion Echo, through the humans in their tunnels, through you. This is how civilizations truly achieve immortality, by passing their wisdom to those who come after. Marcus felt tears streaming down his face inside his helmet as he realized what the AI was telling him. During their neural link, during the heat of battle, Vashti had been downloading its entire database into Echo's memory cores and the Firebase 7 computer systems. Centuries of accumulated knowledge about the Voidborn, star charts showing the locations of other survivor fleets, advanced technologies that could give humanity the tools to fight back. The ship settled gently onto the Firebase 7 landing pad, its hull now showing visible damage from the Voidborn bombardment. But, as Marcus disconnected from the neural interface, he felt something new inside his own mind, fragments of alien memory and understanding that would never completely fade. Dr. Martinez was waiting for him as he emerged from the ship, her expression mixing exhaustion with excitement. Mr. Chen, my technical teams are already analyzing the data your AI transmitted. If even half of this information is accurate, we're looking at a complete paradigm shift in our understanding of exotic physics. It's all accurate, Doctor. Vashti's people spent 3 centuries learning to fight the Voidborn. Everything they discovered is now in your computers. Echo approached the group, its combat systems finally powering down after the successful defense. Marcus, I have completed integration of the alien database. The information contains references to 12 other survivor fleets scattered across multiple galaxies. Additionally, I have acquired specifications for advanced manufacturing techniques that could allow us to produce vessels similar to this one. Marcus looked around at the damaged but victorious Firebase 7, thinking about the implications of what had just happened. Humanity had not only survived a major Voidborn attack, but had actually driven them off using a combination of human ingenuity and alien knowledge. For the first time in 3 years, the future looked like something other than slow extinction. Dr. Martinez, he said, I think it's time to start planning our counterattack. The alien ship's lights pulsed one final time on what might have been approval, and Marcus could swear he felt Vashti's presence smile before fading into the vast digital consciousness now shared between human and alien technology. The war was far from over, but, for the first time since Earth's fall, humanity had genuine hope of reclaiming the stars.